I will call this meeting to order at 7, whatever it is, or 5:48.
Yeah, because
And I will make note of who is on. We do have a quorum. I would ask for a motion to accept the minutes from September 14.
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes from
September 14.
September 14, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passed, and I will go on to our order of the day, which is to talk about the 2021 budget. And Harlita, you want to lead us in that?
Actually, I'm going to let Don do the overview of the
Okay.
budget.
Okay,
And I'm going to do the going through the assumptions and things like that. But the broad strokes, I'll let Don speak to that.
okay.
You have to mute.
You gotta unmute yourself.
Gotcha.
Mute. Okay.
Okay. We've been working on this budget now for quite a while. Mainly the issues obviously that we've encountered have been the impact of COVID on the 2021 budget, not only the 2020 budget, because the 2020 budget affects the spending in 2020, and the balance that is available at the end of the year affects what we can budget in 2021. So it really hurts or affects two budget years, the 2020, 2021. This is the 2021 budget. We are required by law to pass this before December 31st of 2020, the previous year, and it will set the standard for our budget in 2021. What we've tried to do is, because of the influx and the of all the variables that really are kind of odd for this year, mainly the COVID and how does that affect our revenue streams, and also how does that affect our expenditures as well. So what we've tried to do is maintain our current operating levels, not add anything in extraordinary, or not necessarily cut any levels there as well. We think it's important that the city maintains over the next budget year business as usual, and tries to work our way through this. As we go through the year, the effect of COVID on our tax receipts and other receipts, and our ability to actually provide services with regards to, do we need fewer people, less people, more people to do something different? What we do know is that things are going to be different this year. However, we did go through last year with COVID. Much of the year was literally March through today. We've had a full effect of how we can change our operations, and I think we were very successful in how we changed and redeployed our personnel, how we've used our capital, and so the bottom line is this budget will essentially mimic the year before. And in terms of the services that it's going to provide, a budget is a lot of dollars, but really it's measured in what kind of services will it provide. And we believe we're going to be able to provide the same types of services at the same level with the 2021 budget. That was our goal. And I think we're going to be able to accomplish that through 2021. Obviously, we're going to have to look at 2022 and beyond. Next year will be a very big planning year. And hopefully we'll be able to, the economy will come back, and people will be working again, and we'll be able to see some light at the end of this tunnel. So that's the big picture.
All right. So what you have is our normal presentation to council. It's a 38-page packet outlining an overview kind of what our overall plan is over the next 5 years, as well as a lot of the details as to what's in 2021 and how it's different, or how we planned for it a little bit differently. So when we began this budget, we anticipated about a 1.2 to a $1.6 million deficit. This is before we were aware of any of the funding coming from the federal government. The federal government's payments to us through COVID relief funds have basically filled that gap for 2020. And because of that, it will sustain us through 2021. 2022 is going to be an issue because we have yet to feel the full impact of the revenue loss. We have budgeted for the revenue reduction that we believe is going to happen because people are not working and laid off and all of that. So in the 2021 plans, you will see a severe reduction in the amount of income tax that we are projecting. Before all of this pandemic and public health emergency hit, we were around 10.3 million, looking to get like 10.4, 10.5 million in 2021. Because of this, we've reduced that. So we're only anticipating $9.6 million, which is a reduction of about $600,000 or $700,000 over what we, or under what we had in 2019, which is what we're looking at 2019 and 2020 and projecting 2021. We also lost our third largest employer. So that impacts us, as well as we know we're getting a new person to replace that employer. We did not put anything in the budget as far as it was for them coming in, because we don't know if that's going to be delayed or not. So I didn't want to plan on the new tenants coming in prior to their arrival, basically. So that was not a part of our projections as far as income tax was concerned. So if you have your handouts with you, about 4 pages in is where we have our normal presentation of the details of what's in the budget. It goes through all of the revenue estimate assumptions that we made, as well as the expenditure assumptions that we made in preparing the 2021 budget. The 5th page starts with the revenue, and I pretty much gave you a recap of the income tax. We are budgeting income tax to be about 9.7 million, and we're anticipating it to be about 9.6 million for this year. And it looks like we are going to hit those particular targets. Property tax, of course, as well, is down because people don't have the money to pay mortgages and rents and those things. So a part of the mortgage is your property tax. So your property tax is going to be down because your mortgage payments are down. So we are budgeting at exactly what the county estimated that we would receive, because they certify a certain amount of money. And normally we only do about 80% of that. We budgeted what they gave us in hopes that it'll be more, because they also made a substantial reduction in what we were going to generate. So it looks like they've accommodated for COVID as well. And they're pretty much keeping us flat, because they're only estimating an additional $80,000 in revenue being generated from 2020 to 2021. Intergovernmental is hard. This is our grants area. We have seen a great boom in grants. And particularly, we're applying for a lot of them here in November and December, which makes it near to impossible to get it into the budget. The budget is pretty much set by Halloween, and then we go into presentation, preparation, and discussions with you all in the months of November and presenting it to you at the first meeting in December. Even today, I was still kind of reconciling our local government, our coronavirus relief, which we to date have $1.4 million there. We have applied for another about $40,000 in FEMA. We got another $50,000 in additional COVID funding from the county, specifically for the senior center so once finance moves out of the senior center, we will convert the senior center into Wi-Fi shared space that recreation can oversee and reserve for the community to use to like do meetings with, or to like file unemployment claims, have meetings with doctors, meetings with healthcare providers, those type of things. And for people that don't have the internet, if their children need to get onto the internet, we figured we could set up about 10 shared Wi-Fi spaces in the senior center. So we will start those conversions as soon as finance vacates the senior center, which we are anticipating in early December. Again, all of this money is triggered it had to be encumbered by last week, Friday, which we did. And it has to be spent by December 28th. So to date, we have roughly about $700,000 in improvements with that fund. And likewise, about $700,000 going back towards salaries is what our estimate is. After the encumbrances have gone, we did put against the COVID relief funds approximately 5.5 million already. Whatever's not spent, that particular balance again we'll be using police salaries to offset those funds. So all of that is going to add to the cash balance that we carry into 2021. So our cash balance numbers are really, really high based upon us not having a rec program this year, not being able to do about half of the things that we did last year. So if you're not spending it, it's sitting in cash reserves. So our cash reserves are pretty high. So as things start to become active again, we will see a spend down in that cash. But as of last month, the general fund alone had a cash balance of about 7 million, which is the highest I've seen it in my career here. So any questions about the revenue cash balances before we get into the details of the expenditure assumptions?
I have a question, Arletta. Has there been any area of detail on percentage of income that would come into the city from residents that are not able to meet those responsibilities?
Right now, the only way I can estimate it is through income tax collection,
Yes.
because that is kind of, it's based upon earnings. So we're down about $2 million of revenue within our residents, and that's just an estimate. We are trying to do right now, we're trying to do some proactive things like going into payment plans and contacting people that have been paying us, stop paying us, and we're trying to see what happened to these people. So we're trying to make things easier for people to come forward, make payment arrangements with us. We spent a couple months trying to develop a hardship pay plan, which I believe we've got that process in place. And rather than broadcasting a number, we're starting with the people we already have payment plans with and put them on a hardship pay plan first, because they've already come forward and identified themselves. And then we'll reach out to those who have failed to file or are scared to file because they believe they're going to owe and can't pay. So that is kind of what I'm using the tax staff to do, because our traffic is lower. So we need to be more proactive in providing people with more options to pay their taxes. And I want to do that rather than just throw out amnesty, because it just really doesn't work. This is more of a targeted attack towards people who were directly affected by COVID, to identify them, label them in the system, and put them on hardship pay plans for 6-month periods, and then have them reviewed at the end of that 6 months to see if they're working. Any questions on that particular process?
Hello, Harlita. This is Rosalind. I have a question. If we can go back to the recreation department.
Okay.
And so the parks have a lot of equipment that we had budgeted for replacement. And so can you speak on why can't we replace those items? This would be the perfect time to replace some of the items because they're not in usage. And so can you speak on that? Because I know there was funding that was budgeted for new equipment.
Correct. And that was in the capital budget from the state. And those funds have not come to the city. So we haven't been able to replace those things. Now there are plans inside of the COVID funds to get some of the equipment that we need to get to reopen the parks. I know we have disinfecting sprayers, disinfectant, to get the park, because you have to every couple hours go through and spray and disinfect periodically. And we didn't have that equipment, which is why we didn't reopen the parks.
Okay.
So part of this end of year push is to get the things that we need to get the parks back open. So we're buying those things have been ordered. We also did a lot of touchless things. So we had to change things in the senior center because we rent that out. So we had to get rid of the ice machine because that was just the community cesspool. So we went to like a hotel dispensable, which is, I mean, it's better, it's COVID friendly, but it's also more expensive. We had to get partitions for the seniors to get back into the senior center so that you can socially distance them and space them apart. Part of the reason for applying for the grant that we applied for was to get some of the desks and things that we needed as well, because once we're through with the Wi-Fi program, you can still use those desks and things for the seniors. So that equipment will always stay with the senior center. We also are increasing electricity all over the place, where I believe we're kind of going in reverse the way City Hall was. It had walls. We took it out and made open spaces years and years ago. And now here we go 30 to 40 years later, putting the walls back. So finance will look completely different. Community development will look completely different. The floor you all have council meetings in will look completely different, because they're going to erect walls to where it's almost going to be like a tunnel into council chambers, because that's got to be the overflow spot for when the lobby fills up. So other than that, everything is locked off. So
Okay.
we've got to erect walls all over the place. The building is just not right now. We had people sharing offices. So we had to go every place where there was a shared office and provide those employees with dedicated workspaces. So we've done that. We've pretty much driven Rafiq crazy with that, I believe. And I'm still working with him to get all of that settled. We do have a couple more grants that we need to apply for. We weren't going to just rely on the capital budget for funding of I know Jermaine and Jay and I have to meet after Thanksgiving to start our application process with the Ohio Natural Resources for a fitness and walking trail around Central Park. Now, if we get that, I think the grant is like $150,000 to build a trail, and it's an 80-20 split, which means the city would have to contribute funds and we'd have to bring things before council if we were awarded that grant.
Okay. Harlita, I'm looking at our time. We have about 10
Okay,
minutes
so let's
or
run
5
through,
minutes maybe.
let's run
Yeah, let's
through
run through the others.
the expenditure
Okay.
assumptions. And the remainder of that information is just extensive details and analysis on the 2021 budget. I would tell you to read through it if you have some nights where you can't sleep because of this COVID thing. We got the remedy for you in finance. We gave it to you. It's 38 pages of lovely material to put you right to sleep. But about page 6 or 7, I believe, is the appropriation assumptions. And it includes most of the things that we have in the budget, the key items that we have in the budget anyway. The big thing is we don't have any major salary changes. We do have some retirements planned. The Public Works Director will retire, Dave Bisking will retire in July, as well as the assistant to the city manager, Joanne Lee, she'll retire. They were part of a that VRIP, the last time we did VRIP, and their 5 years expires on July 1st of 2021. So we have an officer, a police officer that was already on hold for 2020. That position will be on hold for 2021 as well, not to be filled until 2022. We had a position for a new person in the finance department just to process payments and work the window and provide customer service. That position is on hold, as well as the communications person. So we'll have to wait and see kind of when revenue returns as to when those positions could possibly be filled. And then let's see, what else do we have? So the utilities are at its normal flat percentage, which is 5%. We have gas in there not to exceed $3, which it's been that way for a little while. We had looked at bringing that down, but we were scared that if we brought it down, the gas prices would go back up. So we kind of took it down a couple years ago from 5 to 3, and we feel like $3 average across the year is pretty comfortable. We budgeted an increase of about $10,000 for our commercial insurance throughout the city, as well as 10% for medical insurance. And it looks like, based upon quotes for both, that will be right on target for those. Our insurance increase was estimated to be 9%, and our dental was 4%. So we're within those numbers. We have our normal non-capital expenditures, which are ready, which is in Paul's budget, I believe, at $25,000, our contribution to that. We retained our 50/50 sidewalk program, as well as all of the grants within the environmental awareness area. We have some capital projects, but our level of capital is approximately the same as it was in 2020, because we didn't want to cause any more hardship on the general fund by putting an extreme amount of capital into this budget. So we kind of left it at the same level that we did in 2020 as to not cause more deficit spending. And then lastly, we have transfers, which because we have a high general fund balance, we're able to accommodate transfers, but we'll still have to watch it. Right now, our biggest transfers are due to Economic Development Fund, which is about $650,000, and our debt service, which is $675,000, which is leases and notes combined.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's a very like top level. I don't really want to take you guys down into the details because that's what Don and I do. So,
okay,
okay.
all right.
But if you have any questions after you've gone through, like I'd say the first 10 to 15 pages give you a highbrow view of what's going on with the city and the budget and how we're planning it and what our intentions were and what we put in the pot to cook it. So we'll find out if we got stew at the end, I guess.
Just real quickly,
Okay.
we had on the agenda, budget amendment and salary resolution. Do we have to cover those or can we
Those
skip
are
that?
those are standard housekeeping. We're not
Okay.
adding any new positions. What it does is it puts in the 2% cost of living that we're giving to non-union. And if the bargaining units have negotiated something higher, which I believe police and fire have, it puts in whatever's in their collective bargaining unit agreements.
I know we're running up against the public hearing at 6:15. Are there any questions? All right, I will adjourn this at 6:15, so those people involved in the public hearing can move over to that. Thank you, dear.
All right, thank you.